Proportional Response. Book 1, Chapter 15, Part 9, A Forked and Twisting Tongue. Jalad continued. You can see that we of the Republic are prepared to pay greater than standard rates to lay claim to these worlds. There are many reasons for this, not the least is a concern for the strength of the League itself. This Council chose recently to weaken the military capabilities of the League out of a, shall we say, misplaced sense of victimization over grains sold, in good faith, by the Republic, and despite our best efforts to assure all of you that we had the situation under control. As the tireless defenders of the League, always ready to sacrifice when our Council is threatened, we are prepared to offer up this money to return the League military to a position of strength. To that end, we will be placing the sum total for these worlds into the coffers of the League military, to replace the funds which this Council raided in their sense of panic. I would ask all of you to note that this plan and these funds will actually expand the League military budget from what it was before. Of course, all of you know that we, the Zoltan, have contributed all that we are able in terms of fighting personnel and material. What we have held back for our own military is the least we can possibly afford against the threats that the Zoltan Republic and this Council face. Whether you wish to understand those threats or not.
Oh, we understand them, you fork-tongued bitch. We understand exactly who the threat is. We have understood for a long time, but we now have someone we fear more than you. Hannibal blinked to himself at the thought and fought a wry smile. And, at the same time, we don't fear them, because they have proven that they will make good on all of your people's broken promises.
Therefore, as part of this proposal, we put forth that the requisite expansion of the Council military be drawn from the militaries of your own nations. We, being the ever-faithful servants of the League, will of course contribute a few more of our ships and people, even though we can't really spare them, and we ask that all of you do the same.
Jalad waved another command at her screen, and a new document appeared before Hannibal. His eyebrows furrowed as he read the troop and ship requisitions. They asked very little of the Venter, but seemed to expect the Arabso and Thamirkan, among others, to give up nearly a third of their military command to the League. Of course, they also seemed to think they could strip almost the entire Findle military capability, such as it was. Hannibal had to keep a dark grin off his face. They are going to get a nasty surprise from those birds one day soon. He heard gasps and angry mutters around the chamber and studied the list some more. Those wily bastards. I can see how they expect this vote to go by looking at who they expect to draw from. Everyone they expect to vote against them will be required to allow a lot of their military to be rented by the Council and put under League, meaning Zoltan, military command, while those who they expect to vote in favor will have to make a token contribution at best, except of course the Findle, whom they expect to be able to just ride roughshod over anyway, and the Ruxa, who might refuse and join the humans over it. Jalad raised a hand to quiet the mutters and continued.
So, you all see, this is a reasonable proposal which gives something to us all. We Zoltan finally get to turn our population loose to expand as they have needed to do for generations. This Council will again be able to provide for the welfare and protection of its members as it always had, and many of your nations will have Council funds provided by the generosity of the Republic to fund a portion of your militaries, allowing you to direct your own funds to other pursuits. So, this is the proposal we put before the Council. Is there anyone here who has a counter for the proposal, or who wishes to provide a material reason why it should not proceed?
Jalad looked squarely at Henry, who looked up at her. She lifted one side of her mouth in a challenging smirk. Henry smiled. Jalad's eyes narrowed, and her smirk widened into a grin of pure threat. She did not, however, make any other move. Hannibal sat rock still, as did everyone else in the Council chamber, while the two seemed locked in a contest of wills. She thinks she has him, that he is trapped. Did she not pay attention in the last session? Does she really think the Council is going to continue to just let the Zoltan run roughshod over the rules and get their way? Henry's smile widened, and he pushed a button. Jalad sneered, and didn't even bother to look down at her display as turned over control of the floor to Henry. Henry hit a couple of buttons and brought his platform away from the wall. Jalad's eyes narrowed. Hannibal suppressed a smirk. Kilintar assigned Henry the oldest, most broken down, unused platform in this chamber. I believe it never worked, and has never been used. How did he manage to get someone in here to fix it so quickly? Ebel studied the platform as it floated upward, and heard Kasler chuckle behind him. He felt his own eyes widen for a moment as realization dawned. The humans didn't fix the platform they got assigned to. They snuck in here and moved the platforms around, and rewired things so that they could use that one. Bold, even for them. Still, Henry floated up until he stood level with the Prime Minister's podium and pointedly ignored Kilintar. The lizard surprised Enable by not glaring at Henry's back. Instead, Kilintar pretended not to notice Henry at all, and menacingly swept his eyes back and forth across the council chamber. A line from some human movie Henry had insisted he watch went through Enable's mind. Something about tightening grip and slipping through fingers. Wait. No, I heard that. Where? He turned around, and Euro smirked at him. He gave her a bemused smile and turned back to the proceedings. She likes human movies far too much. After a short, pregnant pause, Henry addressed the council chamber. The United Confederation of Worlds has cause why the Alton cannot claim the worlds here listed. We, the people of the Confederation, claim the worlds by right of prior use. We have functional independent colonies on all of the world in question. Gasps, angry mutters, and a variety of other sounds of astonishment, remonstration, disbelief, and even approval floated through the chamber and to Enable's ears. He looked around the chamber and saw that few seemed particularly surprised by the announcement that the Humans Confederation held more than twice the number of worlds that most thought, and even fewer who seemed bothered by the fact. Just as telling, no one seemed to have any trouble believing it. Henry seemed a little nonplussed at the lack of a strong reaction to his announcement, and started to continue. Jalat cut him off, speaking in tones that indicated surprise and derision. All of these worlds. She raised an eyebrow. We of the Republic knew that you humans were ambitious and underhanded, but to colonize so many worlds without so much as a note to the Council, that is unprecedented. And to do so without paying proper registration fees to the Council. Surely you understand that those fees, while admittedly steep, are one of the major sources of income for the League, that the money is used to provide for the safety and security of us all. Well, humanity has... Henry cut her off. The Confederation of Worlds has paid more than has been asked of it, for as long as we have been able. We have contributed more, per capita, since that is how that particular tax is levied, to the League military than has been required of us, and our standing with this council. We have provided our experts for a great many projects at cost, or even paid for them ourselves. We have shared technological innovations. Henry held up a hand to prevent Jalat's attempted interruption. I said innovations, not breakthroughs. We are far behind many of you in technological progress, I admit that, but we have found novel ways to use our technology, as you yourself just mentioned, and we have been quite generous in sharing those innovations with our fellow sapiens. Have we asked for payments some of the time? Of course. But even you have to admit that those payments, when requested, have been more than reasonable. Jalat motioned, and Henry's mic cut off. A few grumbles came up from the crowd. Enable seethed quietly, but managed not to join the vocal grumblers, though Kalzor made his own noises of protest. Jalat could be technically considered within her rights, but only barely, and it is questionable. Granted, 30 years ago, no one would contest a Zoltan shutting down someone saying something they didn't want heard. Now, however, people have actually read the Byzantine rules of procedure for this council, and they know she is treading on very thin ground. Jalat spoke. Humanity's attempts to ingratiate themselves with the nations of this council notwithstanding, the issue here is the claim of dozens of worlds. It is unheard of, and, I'd say, rather underhanded for humanity to swoop in and claim so many worlds, to set up colonies on worlds which could, easily, be considered to be within the territories, or at least within striking distance, of so many of your nations, without even letting anyone know that they were there. Indeed, the case could likely be made
that the humans have gone to some lengths to hide their colonies.
Some consternation and some agreement seemed to float up through the council chamber, but Jalat didn't look pleased by the reaction. She probably expected more of us to be cowed by the idea of the humans living so close to our worlds. Too many, however, already see them as the lesser evil. Also, Jalat continued to speak, cutting off his thoughts.
Oh, come now, my dear fellows, you can stop requesting the floor. I would hardly make such a claim without providing a reason. The least reason is somewhat self-evident. None of you have heard that the humans have colonies on these worlds, and you all know how large a colony has to be in order for a nation to claim rights to the world. Ask yourselves if you could build a colony of sufficient size and independence so close to another's borders without anyone knowing you had done so. Of course, there is more. While you are contemplating the difficulties of moving so many people and so much material in and out of spaces so close to your own, think very hard about that material. Which do you think would be the lesser expense? For you to ship all of that material from your own nation to a world so distant, or to, as is custom within our league, work out deals with those closest to the world to buy the materials that your colony will need, providing for the prosperity of all? Now, once you are considering their breach of the normal etiquette of trade, ask yourself why you would consider going to such expense and be willing to cheat your fellows in the League of Trade, inherent to such colonies. The humans will doubtlessly claim that they didn't understand that what they were doing is unethical, or try to stand on that rugged individualism and independence that they seem to hold on such a pedestal. But I tell you that such claims hold no water. Oh, such claims may be true, or at least may have some truth to them, but we can't let such things sway us. I mean, really, can we stand here and allow a rising member of this council to flout the law and the letter on the grounds that it is just the way they are? Can we allow cultural norms of a nation to dictate council policy?